When I'm not waiting for this stupid writer's strike to end so I can have people write better intro jokes for me again, I like to answer questions and comments that I get on YouTube, so let's get to it. Is it true that many songwriters use the flat 7 as a substitute for the diminished chord? Might make a good lesson. Alright, last week I did a video on the circle of fifths, and a couple comments were like, well, this is stupid, why would you need to know the 7 chord in any key? It's a diminished chord, you never use that. And it's like, yeah, diminished chords don't always show up in a lot of pop music, but I think a well-timed minor 7 flat 5 diminished chord can make or break a chord progression. So today we're going to talk about just 3 different uses for it real quick, and then I'm going to record an example for a song that I have that uses it. Alright, so in any key, there are 7 notes. All of those become chords. That 7th note in a key becomes a minor 7 flat 5 or diminished chord. And by itself it sounds, kind of whack, but there's a lot of great uses for it. So in the key of C, the first one we're going to talk about just is, just using it as a 7 chord to transition from a 1 to a 6. All right, so in the key of C, C is the 1 chord, C major, 6 would be A minor, right? You see that all the time. C to A minor. Okay, so what's in between A and C? B, B minor 7 flat 5. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is going to be using this as an interchangeable thing for the 5 chord. And then it's just really an easy chord that you should know because it's not hard to play. And if you execute it well, it sounds like you really, really know what you're doing. And even just saying minor 7 flat 5 chord, B minor 7 flat 5, C sharp minor 7 flat 5, D sharp, E flat minor 7 flat 5. You sound like a professor or something. So again, it's super easy. Here's B minor 7 flat 5. It's 2 on the A string, 3 on the D string, 2 on the G string, 3 on the B string. Okay, so 2, 3, 2, 3. Now let's use it first as a transition between that C and A minor chord. Let's do a popular example of it, right? Stand By Me. We talked about this song last week. See how I did that walk? C, B, A, right? So that's kind of like the starter version, the beginner version, that C slash B. Well, you could just go C, B minor 7, flat 5, A minor, right? So here's the difference. Here's a qualitative difference. C, C, B, A. Or, if you want to sound like you got your master's degree in music, C, when you hit that, it's just like, ooh, who is this guy? What does this guy got going on? People will respect you. Maybe not, but it's a great transitional chord in there. Now, in the spirit of this question, you could also use it as just kind of like an interchangeable thing with the 5 chord, okay? 5 chord in the key of C, C, D, E, F, G, I think I know how to count with my fingers, is G7, right? G dominant 7. So something like this or something like this. Now, if you look at a G dominant 7 chord and then just take the G away, well, guess what? You get that B diminished chord anyways. So G dominant 7 is a G, a B, a D, and an F. A B half diminished chord or whatever, diminished triad would be not a G, but a B, a D, and an F. So you can kind of use this interchangeably. So let's go from C. And then I played a G7 there instead of a B minor 7. See how they're really similar? So you can kind of use those interchangeably in a lot of ways. Now, sometimes this may not work if you really need that root note in there, but just kind of like a different flavor, a different direction. I think it's a really cool thing to do. Now, a third way, aside from just using it as transition from 1 to 6 or 6 to 1, is using it in between the 4 and the 5 chord. This is where I really like, this is my favorite way to use this chord, right? So I'll do this chord progression, then I'll record this song. It's going to be C minor, B flat 7, A, okay, so what happened here is we have a chord progression that's basically in minor, C minor. This would be a 6 chord to the 5 chord, B flat, and And then it's like, all right, I want to go from the 5 chord to the 4 chord, which would be B flat major or B flat 7 to A flat major 7, okay? Now what is going on in here in between the 6th fret on the E string and the 4th fret on the E string? We've got this beautiful A in between that is not in the key, all right? So a transitional note in between that gets like this descending bass line that has this cool little spice here is a great way to think about, a great way to potentially use a minor 7 flat 5 chord in between the 5 and the 4 chord. Now the reason this is so cool is because let's look at the 4 chord as a major 7, right? This is a G sharp or A flat, major 7, 4E, 5 and 5 on D and G, and then 4B. Well, if you just took that root note and then just made it right there, it's an A minor 7 flat 5. So we can just take this and just move it, right? Diminish. Kind of like creepy, whatever. Beautiful, all right? Now the way that I kind of do it, I swap my middle finger on the root and my pointer finger, right? So we've got 6 chord, the 5 chord, the 4.5 chord, and the 4 chord. And then I can walk it back up. Okay, so we're gonna record this as a song. You can kind of see it in context because Sweetwater sent me a new interface and I wanted an excuse to use this. So this is a song that I wrote a while ago, but I've never done it with Neve preamps. This is the Neve 88M interface. It's all bus powered and it has like really incredible Neve preamps, like they're actual Neve preamps, the same thing that are in the Neve 88 console, which is just like, you know, $1 billion. So you get 2 pre's, and it's super simple. It's made in England, so it's a high quality interface. Hands down, I've used a lot of interfaces. These are the best stock preamps I've ever used. So let's make a song. We're gonna start with just getting a backing track. I'm gonna go to Logic. It has a drummer built in. This is in 6/8, so I'm gonna tell the drummer, who has a trendy Brooklyn name, to play a little groove. Now I'm gonna use some Soyuz microphones. These are the 13s. I'm gonna stereo record them in pairs using just the preamps clean. Then I'm gonna use Arturia pigments for a bass and some other cool kind of like, you know, whimsical things in there. Then I'm gonna use the Soyuz 1973 to mic the AC15 to do a little guitar solo. And then finally, I'm gonna use the Soyuz 17 large diaphragm condenser, and this is using the insert. So if you don't know what an insert is, basically this interface is really cool because each channel, it just has the 2 channels, but you can also expand these into 10 in and out with the ADAT on the back. But each of the analog inputs on the actual interface has an insert. So you can patch in an external piece of gear. So for vocals, I need a lot of help keeping it like a dynamic straight. So I'm gonna patch in a Warm Audio 1176. So what this does is I just take the insert out, or the send essentially, taking that out and the input on the compressor, and the output on the compressor sends it back in to the return on the preamp. That way I can kind of just patch in a piece of analog gear. This could really be anything. This could even be guitar pedals and stuff like that too. But just gonna do that, compress it, and then we've got a song. We all raise a glass and a toast to a friend, stricken by illness and nearing the end. A finite horizon, the sun sets to blend into night, into night. The safety in numbers no longer applies. The enemy does the damage from inside of the host. Doesn't matter how fast one can ride into night, into night.
as a comet that burns through the sky, a strong constitution that fights to survive in a land where the medicine's in short supply these days. These days, a desperate resolve, an old friend tempting the face, and too late, a formality to look into. But by the grace of a new dawn breaking in haste and starlight, we might revive a rider spent, postpone him heaven sent in hindsight. We are unprepared yet stand to make amends. Toast to a friend, yes, some are among us unwilling to bend to the preordained writings selected to end in the night, in the night.
That's cool and all, but why did you have to look at your hand and think in your mind when you changed chords? Maybe you have to practice more?
First time I've gotten this salty comment where I had to look at my hand and think in my mind when I'm playing guitar. You know, I think that's something I'm really working on, sir. I'm very sorry that I have to think in my mind when I'm playing the instrument. So next time, I'll try to just clear my head of any thoughts and never look at my hand. Wouldn't it be kind of creepy doing a video where, like, you never look at your hand? Can I even do it? Oh, I can do it, yeah, easy. Never looking at my hand. Are you satisfied that I can play without thinking in my mind or looking at my hand?
Literally brilliant, sounds magnificent. You can start an entirely new channel on how to use technology to record and enhance music.
Thanks, this is on a video I posted with my friend Amy, where we did that new Billie Eilish song and kind of used some plugins and stuff to mix it. Make it ethereal sounding. Incredible singer. So check that video out if you haven't seen it, because Amy sounded so good on this song. And yeah, I'm always down to do more recording video. Like, I love actually kind of messing with new gear and stuff. So if you have any questions, I would love to answer them, because I have some new mic demos coming out also this month. So hit me with the questions, because I would love to do more recording videos, because it gives me an excuse to actually record stuff. All right, so for listening homework this week, it's actually not going to be a song, it is going to be an audiobook. There's a new Malcolm Gladwell audiobook called Miracle and Wonder that is with Paul Simon. So Paul Simon, obviously a great songwriter. His heyday was kind of like before my time, but I've always like respected Paul Simon and was like, I had a lot of questions about his songwriting. In fact, sometimes it almost sounded like, well, this would have been a cool song, but then like it took a weird turn and it kind of changed it, and I don't really love it. But this is actually really cool, because Malcolm Gladwell interviewed him over like the course of like a month, and he got a bunch of interview things, and it's Simon talking about his songwriting process, and it totally made me rethink just kind of everything about his career, because it's a very studious thing. And every time I hear a super successful person talk about songwriting, it almost always kind of comes off as like pretentious and, oh, Mary Poppins just flew in on an umbrella and gifted me with like this incredible song. I think there's like a lot of really cool kind of exploratory, even some music theory, getting in the weeds songwriting things that Paul Simon's talking about, which is like fantastic. In fact, like he's talking about just doing writing exercises where he's trying to fit all 12 tones into a song. And I don't know, it just gets in the weeds into songwriting, which I think is really cool. So check that out. Thank you to Sweetwater for sponsoring the video with that Neve preamp. And if you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, or the website, and I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.